Hello there, good evening. It is the third day of May 2023, the eve of what could have been the second protest organized by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance this week. We have details about why that has been called off also. It is the day that journalists here in the country as well as globally take time to ponder and reflect about the challenges that they go through in their line of duty as well as their achievements. Good evening, my name is Eric Munene. We begin, but first let's have a look at highlights. The Azimio Brigade calls of Thursday's mass protests.
The leadership of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party met and agreed to once more suspend the mass protests.
After the Kenya Kwanza side ceded ground and recalled Ed and Canaan as part of the government negotiating team.
Tukubaliana nao kuondoa Mheshimiwa Canaan kutoka ile team ya Bipartisan committee. Na tumeshauriana na viongozi wetu na Mheshimiwa Aden Canaan ambaye ako hapa na sisi na amekubali.
Journalists in Kenya and across the world observe Press Freedom Day amid rising cases of attacks and victimization in the line of duty.
Ya kwanza venye ilirushwa ilinigonga mguu.
And MCAs demand an increase in their remuneration in convention filled with chaotic scenes.
Hata wananchi wasikuje basi kwa mapoma zetu. Ile mshahara kidogo tuko nayo inatutosha sisi.
Good evening once more. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is Catherine Simoloi. We begin. Tonight, the Azimio coalition has called off its Thursday protests after the ruling Kenya Kwanza agreed to recuse Elda's Member of Parliament Eden Canaan from the bipartisan talks, replacing him with SACU MP Dido Raso. The move came after Azimio principal Kalonzo Musyoka said that the opposition was willing to stand down its demos if Canaan is recused from the talks. Kenya Kwanza, led by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, said it was willing to bend backwards for the interest of the country. He is our senior political affairs reporter, Apollo Kamau, to kickstart this bulletin tonight.
Sobriety and voice of reason after Tuesday's chaos prevailed on Wednesday after Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio coalition softened their hardline positions on the bipartisan talks, both sides making concessions in a give-and-take affair. The Azimio coalition calling off its Thursday protests after Kenya Kwanza heeded to the opposition's demand to recuse Elda's MP Eden Canaan from the talks, replacing him with SACU MP Dido Raso.
This evening, the leadership of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party met and agreed to once more suspend the mass protests that we had earlier scheduled to continue tomorrow. The coalition took this step following the decision by the Kenya Kwanza to accede to one of our demands that informed the resumption of the mass action.
We are willing to bend backwards for the sake of progress of the country, national unity, and the stability of the nation. We have therefore consulted with Mheshimiwa Adan Canaan and the coalition's leadership, and the Honorable Adan Canaan has graciously agreed to recuse himself in the greater interest of this country and the exercise that is before the bipartisan committee.
Following the decision to call off the demos, the Azimio coalition has now summoned its 7-member delegation to the bipartisan talks on Thursday for fresh instructions on how they will engage their Kenya Kwanza counterparts. Azimio warning Kenya Kwanza they will not hesitate to return to the streets should there be lack of goodwill.
That we will not hesitate to resume the mass action at the slightest indication of lack of goodwill and honesty on the Kenya Kwanza side.
The man on the center of the storm, Elda's MP Eden Canaan, saying Azimio has no reason to stall the talks.
I do not want Canaan to be used as an excuse in the name of the other many excuses that they're likely to generate in the next few days. And taking into account the national interest, as Professor Terry once said, there comes a time when the country is more important than an individual.
How to make progress, because for 1 week we have been in a quagmire without knowing exactly where we are going. So tomorrow we are back so that we can start from where we stopped and the talks can proceed seamlessly without any interference.
With sobriety prevailing from the two sides on Wednesday, attention now shifts to the next phase of the talks, with the opening of the service and restatement of IEBC commissioners being a sticking point. Apul Kamau, TV47 at Parliament Buildings.
Well, thank you for that, Apollo Kamau. Moving on, ward representatives from across all the 47 county assemblies have threatened to shut down legislative and oversight duties in their respective counties in protest of the salary review by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC, in the year 2022, which saw the ward parks reduced and the basic salary depreciating to 86,000 shillings. Issuing a 14-day ultimatum, over 2,000 reps have vowed not to discuss or even pass the county budget estimates, which is likely to affect the devolved unit operations. Moigi William with more.
Wednesday morning, elected and nominated members of county assemblies from all 47 counties converge at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, top of the agenda for the over 2,000 ward reps being matters to do with their salaries. Chaotic scenes will be witnessed when the Principal Secretary, State Department for Labor Geoffrey Kaituko, wanted to address the MCAs who said they are angry and hungry. The MCAs ejected PS Kaituko from the venue. The bare minimum for the ward reps was an address from President William Ruto, or least Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. The meeting was moments later called to order. This time at the receiving end was the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, who were responsible for the downward review of salaries for public servants in the year 2022. In July 2022, SRC released reviewed figures of salaries that public servants will receive, among them MCAs, where the gross salary was adjusted to 144,375,000 and a basic salary of 86,625 per month. Also, the SRC abolished some benefits and allowances, including transport facilitation benefit in the form of a car grant and sitting allowance for plenary sessions. The ward reps threatened to boycott undertaking their responsibilities and sabotaging this year devolution conference if relevant bodies do not look into their welfare, proposing that their salaries be standardized as those of their counterparts at the county level. According to the figures by the SRC, the Speaker pockets a gross salary of 525,525 with a house allowance of 80,000, as the Deputy Speaker takes home a salary of 216,563 shillings with a house allowance of 60,000 shillings.
Na kama mshahara wa MCA huko kidogo, so kumaanisha kama inasemekana ni muhimu sisi turudi kwa bunge, then hata wananchi wasikuje basi kwa maboma zetu. Ile mshahara kidogo tuko nayo inatutosha sisi, wake zetu pamoja na watu wetu.
Tutashut all county assemblies, hakuna kwenda plenaries, hatutapitisha budget na hiyo mambo kabla, na tutazuia the devolution conference, hatutakuwa pale.
Further, a resolution was reached with members concluding to withdraw their membership from the County Assemblies Forum, alleging that it has failed in its mandate in fighting for the welfare of the ward reps.
Tumefika mahali ikawa mambo ile wanafanya ni mambo yao. Tukafika mahali tukaona lazima tukusanyike pamoja ndiye tukue na another body ile itakuwa inatetea waheshimiwa.
If county legislators make true of their threats, the 47 devolved units are looking into a crisis at the center of which mwananchi possibly missing on important services. Moige William, TV47, KICC, Nairobi.
Well, thanks for that, Moige William. Now, members of the Fourth Estate on Wednesday marked the Press Freedom Day, set annually on the 3rd of May to reflect on the plight of journalists across the globe. Stakeholders in the media industry, however, still regard media freedom as under threat, pointing a finger at the Shakahola massacre incident where journalists were barred from accessing the forest for first-hand information. Have a look.
Press Freedom Day was proclaimed by the United Nations as an avenue to champion for the freedom of the press, pay tribute to all journalists who have lost their lives in the line of duty, and defend the media personalities from brutality to effectively achieve their objectives and in ensuring democracy is practiced. It is in the same forum that the media can load its strengths over the years in the influence of technology that masses can get verified and timely news either on Kenya's 220 radio stations, 135 TV stations, 100 publications, or either in the over 2,000 blogs. Media freedom has, however, been regarded under threat during an annual summit organized in Nairobi by key stakeholders in the media industry, pointing to an example of the Shakahola massacre incidents where journalists were barred from accessing the forest for first-hand information.
In the past year, scores of journalists have been injured while going about their duties. The violence has been from both state and non-state actors. On digital platforms, enemies of freedom of expression have been unrelenting in their attacks on journalists and media houses. Sources of threat to journalists are well known. We call for an immediate stop to these violations. Journalists must be allowed to exercise their constitutional right to do their professional work.
Interior CS Kithure Kindiki, however, recognized the challenging work carried out by the media, calling upon the employers to address their welfare.
Ile kazi mnafanya kama journalist ni kazi ngumu, kazi kubwa, kazi ya kujitolea. Nikaambia wadozi wenu pia wawafikirie waongeze.
In Embu County, journalists collaborated with police officers where they planted trees at the Eastern Region Police Headquarters at Mugoya, citing that the decision was made to advocate for a cordial working relationship between the security officers while increasing the forest cover.
Tunajua wakati mwingi wakati unapofanya kazi, huwa inasemekana polisi ndio labda wanazuiwa na habari kufanya ile kazi, lakini hapa mkoa wa Mashariki na kaunti ya Embu tumeendelea vizuri, tuna ushirikiano mzuri. Kila wakati tunapohitaji habari yote huwa tunapata.
We will try, and myself as a lawmaker, we will try as much as possible to ensure media freedom does not go backward.
The same script was witnessed in Uasin Gishu County as the press called on the government to provide free access to information to promote a good linkage with the general public. Paul Monio, TV 47.
On now to our editorial. The role of the media in democracy cannot be overstated. It serves as a bridge between citizens and the government, bringing to the forefront the issues that matter most to the people. Through the provision of news and analysis of current events, the media creates awareness among the general public and shapes their opinions on various issues. By acting as a watchdog to the conduct of the government, media criticizes unpopular policies and programs and holds those in power accountable. The importance of media in shaping a healthy democracy cannot be emphasized enough. It is supposed to be the guardian of truth and a warrior fighting with a pen, exposing the harsh realities of life. However, it is disheartening to note that journalists have become targets of attacks by individuals who feel threatened by their work. While some argue that the media has been contaminated by political influences, the punishment meted out to journalists is not justified. In Kenya, the role of journalists in upholding media freedom and democracy is increasingly being undermined by both state and non-state actors as repressive practices of the past resurface. Unfortunately, this is not a new phenomenon, but the current threats are taking on a more dangerous dimension as they are openly defended and even justified by some of the perpetrators. These threats take many forms, including economic, political, and physical, and they are aimed at intimidating and silencing journalists who dare to speak truth to power. Politicians are among the worst offenders, using their positions of power to undermine media freedom and stifle dissenting voices. It is saddening to lose colleagues in the line of duty, and even more worrying to see non-perpetrators walking free The media needs to be protected from such attacks to continue performing its critical role in the society. Tonight, we ask fellow Kenyans to stand up against these threats and demand that the authorities take action to protect the rights of journalists and uphold the principles of democracy. The media must be allowed to act as a watchdog and hold those in power accountable for their actions without fear of retribution or violence. It is time to end the impunity and ensure that journalists can carry out their work without fear of retaliation. In conclusion, the media plays an indispensable role in democracy and should be celebrated and protected. And only then can Kenya truly become a free and democratic society. Now, with that editorial from the Cape Media editorial desk, time now for a very short break. But first, let's have time now for a short break.
Wakati mwingine kama weekend, mimi najiachilia.
Hata ukumbuki history.
Nikifika watu wangu wakinipokea na kupokeleka.
Umeset the mood.
Nimeset the mood. Naweza kupokeleka. Nikitumai kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo, nikikukaribisha katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutuku. Katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi tunakupa nafasi kutangamana nao kila siku ya Alhamisi kuanzia saa 1:30 kuendelea siku nyingine. Tutapatana papa hapa umjue kiongozi mwingine.
Jiunge nasi toka hapa hadi ufuoni mwa bahari. Meli yetu itakapotua nanga kwa uhondo ribo ya riwaya hii mwisho wa kosa. Monica.
It's early morning in Maralal. Start your morning informed, educated, entertained, and above all, know your country.
From the beautiful plains of Samburu County to the skyscraper.
I've begun as a way of referring to the 5 most difficult animals to hunt on foot. The lion, leopard, rhino, elephant and buffalo were the 5 large African mammal species that were known to hunters as dangerous, and successfully hunting them was considered an accomplishment.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Now, journalists in Kenya have decried a lack of press freedom as the number of journalists being harassed by both state and non-state actors continues to increase without any tangible action being taken. The media, which plays a critical role as a watchdog, is facing threats in trying to inform the common mwananchi what he needs to know. As journalists mark today as a special day, they have little to smile about since the future of journalism is facing a dark cloud. As Paul Kirobi reports, media has found itself in the middle of accusations of a misreporting.
The freedom of the press as envisaged under the Constitution of Kenya 2010 is seemingly fading by the day if the recent attacks and victimization of journalists in the line of duty is anything to go by. Among other circumstances, the lack of goodwill from the government, which has been seen to most often than not give thinly veiled threats to the Fourth Estate, puts journalists in difficult situation in trying to uncover the ill evils in the society, and even worse, leaves them exposed. A few weeks ago, journalists from different media houses were the receivers of the wrath of the police and protesters during the coverage of the anti-government protest in Nairobi and other cities, just like Jones Nganga, Cape Media's photojournalist.
Tia gasi ya kwanza venye ilirushwa ilinigonga mguu ya right. Ya pili venye ilirushwa ikanigonga mkono ya right. Ya tatu venye ilirushwa ilianza kucheza juu ya gari. Ikaanza kucheza juu, kuzunguka juu ya gari kwa sababu maybe hiyo pressure sijui venye tu zimeundwa.
This is not the only case study. Edwin Seseka from western part of the country, while covering by-elections in Webuye, he was roughed up by a group of politicians while trying to understand what was going on in the polling station.
Kwa nimetembelea kituo cha Webuye SK kuweza kuangalia tu vile kura zinaendelea, lakini nilipofika hapo kikundi kimoja cha wanasiasa kiliweza kunivamia kwa sababu walifikiria kwamba kuna masuala ambayo kulikuwa na kuhonga kwa pesa. So vile waliniona kama mimi na habari wakafikiri kwamba huenda nikatambua zile shughuli ambazo walikuwa wanafanya na nikaweza kuwa roughed up, lakini tools zangu hazikuharibika japo niliweza kuokolewa na maafisa wa polisi wa Webuye. Maafisa wanafanya kazi mzuri, lakini baadhi yao huwa wanafanya kazi na wao wanasiasa.
The duty of journalists is informing the public what is happening around the globe has become a major challenge, more so from the security administration. Timothy Wekesa, a newspaper writer, feels the system to deal with perpetrators is becoming weak.
Hakuna system nzuri ambayo inaweza ikakabiliana na hao watu. Unapata kushughulikia masuala ya watu ambao wameshambuliwa imeachiwa tu katika mikono ya mwandishi mwenyewe na labda mashirika ya kuwapigania kama Media Council na KCA, lakini unapokuja upande wa Media Council ni kama wanakuwa chini ya serikali zaidi. Sasa hawana mamlaka.
Blame game is now coming up among stakeholders and organizations tasked to safeguard the freedom of the press and safety.
When was the last time the Complaints Commission had a meeting and conversation with the stakeholders so that we can see how we can work together? There is none. We meet during the interviews, then it ends there.
The press reported hot air regarding arrest of the former Interior Chief. Then why was there a follow-up to attempt to arrest him? It means, therefore, that the press played an important role in terms of alerting the country to the possibility of something that was about to happen.
At least 25 local and foreign journalists were attacked, harassed or arrested since the onset of the demonstrations in Kenya, according to the Media Council of Kenya. The media regulators since 27th March 2023, a total of 20 documented cases of attacks, harassment and arrest were registered, with the number rising to 25. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists CPJ, at least 4 journalists were killed in Africa in 2022, and as of December 1st, 2022, at least 56 journalists were imprisoned across Africa in connection with their work. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
Well, thank you, Paul Kirobi, for that. Now, the autopsy conducted on the 30 bodies of Shakahola victims yesterday revealed that 20 victims starved to death, 1 was strangled, while 3 were suffocated to death. And as of Wednesday, another autopsy was conducted on 36 more bodies. And according to government chief pathologist Johansen Odor, all died of starvation, as Chichi Josephine now tells us.
Wednesday marked the 3rd day of the post-mortem exercise on the bodies of those exhumed from the expansive Shakahola forest as the probe into the alleged cultic activities facing controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie intensifies. Pathologists and other experts, who also include homicide detectives, DCI, forensic and government chemist experts, did 36 postmortems, bringing the number of postmortems conducted to 76.
We were able to do a total of 36 postmortems. Of these, 16 were children, 19 were adults. The cause of death from all of these, majority we found that they died because of features of starvation, which were 23 of them. 4 of them we found that they had asphyxia. And remember, I told you asphyxia is someone who was denied oxygen prior to death. 7 of them we were unable to ascertain why they died because of the level of decomposition. Then we found a child who had head injury.
Chief Government Pathologist Johansen Odor, while giving the daily brief at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital mortuary, said they expect to conclude the post-mortems by Friday so that they resume exhumation of bodies that are still in shallow graves at the horrific Shakahola forest.
We believe that within the next 2 days we will be through with the post-mortem process, so that now if the weather is good for us, we can move back to the field and see whether we can get more and more graves.
While that was going on, rescuers rescued 1 male adult alive within the forest as the search and rescue of those said to have gone deeper into the forest to avoid being arrested continues. Meanwhile, Tana River Senator Danson Mungatana has been elected the chair of the Senate team to probe mysterious cult deaths in Shakahola, Kilifi County. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki is among top government officials expected to appear before the Senate Ad Hoc Committee investigating the proliferation of cultic religious organizations and the circumstances leading to the deaths of 110 people. The committee, that has 90 days to report back to the House, is set to start its public hearings next week with a date with CS Kindiki, Attorney General Justin Muturi, and the Registrar of Societies in the Office of the Attorney General. Among the issues the committee will seek to establish from the officers include the registration status of the religious organizations and the mitigation measures of the current case and regulations, if any, in use to control religious entities and their activities. Elsewhere, religious leaders have continued to condemn the happenings in Shakahola as they call on the government to hastily take action on those misleading the faithful through unacceptable ideologies.
Hiyo maneno ya mjungaji ya magenzi ni maneno ya muuaji, kwa sababu kama una strangle mtoto ama unaua wanawake, hiyo maneno ni ya serikali sasa, kwa sababu hakuna mahali Biblia inasema ulazimishe mtu kufunga. Hiyo ni maneno ambayo serikali inataka ichukulie mkazo.
Chichi Josephine, TV47.
To matter security now, Interior CAS Professor Kithure Kindiki has ordered an immediate operation to flush out armed criminals and cattle rustlers hiding in Marsabit forest. This follows the killing of 4 people Tuesday by armed raiders in an ambush attack. Speaking after a meeting with the county's Security and Intelligence Committee, Kindiki disclosed that several current and former political leaders, religious leaders, and community elders were under investigation for inciting and fanning tribal animosity and retaliatory attacks in the county. He ordered the resumption and upscaling of cohesion and peace-building efforts in the county, which will be spearheaded by the county security team and include political, religious, and community leaders.
We are going to conclude investigations on some of the community, religious and political leaders who are, in our view, responsible for funding negative ethnicity, encouraging and funding criminal activities that has led to the recent escalation of violent crime within Marsabit County. We must dismantle ethnic warlords and people who have made huge political and community capital out of encouraging crime, discrimination, and intercommunal fighting.
Well, 28 minutes past the hour, time now for another short break, but don't go, I will be back with more.
But I know that meat looks tender, but maybe not so much when your chest is burning. Remember what happened the last time? Hey, dude, you don't listen, man. Are you testing yourself? I tried looking out for you, bro. Hey, you see now? How's the heartburn? Look now, it's burning.
Do not hold back in any situation. Eno gets to work on the 6 symptoms of heartburn fast.
You do know you said all of that out loud, right?
If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
As you enter a new phase of life, you may seem lost until you discover the passion within.
I'm happy that MKU decided to open a branch in Malindi to make work easier for those parents who have never been away from their kids or children.
That's all the equipment that I need to study and all the facilities that I need.
Simply have one of the most beautiful and ultra-modern structure.
Join us at Mount Kenya University and Equip Africa Institute Malindi Odell Center to build your future. Intake in April for electronic learning and May for distance learning. Mount Kenya University.
Unlocking infinite possibilities. Karibuni.
Mount Kenya.
Radio 47 tuko nawe mchana kutwa na usiku kucha. 92.1 Nakuru. Hapa ndipo. Welcome to the Mwai Kibaki Convention Center, the premier events venue. Our state-of-the-art facilities are designed to meet all your needs, from large-scale conferences to intimate meetings and everything in between. Located in the heart of Thika, the Mwai Kibaki Convention Center offers stunning views of the city skyline and is easily accessible from all major transportation hubs. Our facility features ample parking, free Wi-Fi, advanced audiovisual equipment, and our technical team is always on hand to ensure your event runs smoothly and seamlessly. Don't take our word for it. Make your next event unforgettable at the Mwai Kibaki Convention Center. Contact us today for bookings and reservations. Email multimedia@mku.ac.ke or call us on 0708 212204 or 0727 441733 or 0721 438 629 to learn more about our services and book your event.
Hi there, my name is George Washiri Optiven, and I'm very humbled to introduce to you Tulivu Gardens Phase 2. This property is adjacent to Konza Technopolis and only 4 minutes from the highway. This is a property whereby once you purchase it, you preserve your wealth, you build your wealth, you create your investment, create wealth for your generations. Don't miss this lifetime opportunity. Call this number right now, 0790 300 300. Optiven, inspiring possibilities. 23 years of impacting communities.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Now, President William Ruto has unveiled a new funding model for universities and TVETs, which will provide adequate resources for university education. The new financing method is student-centered, as it will be apportioned to individual students according to their level of need. Although the head of state assured that every student will be supported adequately to meet the cost of programs they will be pursuing, universities and TVETs will no longer receive block funding in form of capitation based on a differentiated unit cost. Students will be categorized according to 4 levels of need, namely vulnerable, extremely needy, and less needy. Those to be fully funded are the vulnerable and extremely needy students, who comprise 29% of the students joining universities and TVETs this year. Now, the new model will be implemented this academic year, that is 2023-2024, and will commence with the new cohort of 173,127 students joining universities and 144,325 joining TVETs.
TVETs are struggling. Many universities have court cases. They cannot pay their lecturers. And statistics show that the 54 billion that we budget for university education is less than 50% of the requirement of our universities to carry out the curriculum being taught in our universities. As a result, universities have been forced to cut corners, if I may put it crudely, and look for alternative ways of trying to get our students taught. And therefore, it became necessary, and I did ask my economic team, led by Professor David Ndi, who is here, to sit down with our university vice chancellors. They've had many meetings. I have had many meetings myself with the team that was negotiating. I think I have had 7 different meetings for many hours. I am happy to announce to the country that finally we have a new funding model for our universities.
Well, moving on, the proposal to amend the constitution to introduce the offices of the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister and the official leader of the opposition got an upper hand Wednesday after Azimio la Umoja and Kenya Kwanza in the National Assembly supported it in unison. The leaders, however, differed on the route to be taken to make the amendments, as Mike Kagongo now tells us.
National Assembly Majority and Minority leaders Kimani Ichung'wah and Opiyo Wandayi have tabled their views on a petition seeking to introduce the offices of the Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister and the official leader of the opposition. The petition filed by Victor Okol proposes the amendment of the Constitution to introduce the offices on the grounds that the current winner-takes-it-all system is regressive. Ichung'wah and Wandayi supported the petition, calling for an amendment to the Constitution to create offices of the Prime Minister and official opposition.
First and foremost, in a parliamentary system, you would obviously need a Prime Minister who is obviously the leader of the party or coalition of parties.
Leader of Majority Kimani Ichung'wah and Leader of Minority Opiyo Wandayi, however, have differed on the route to use to make the amendments. In his presentation to the Public Petitions Committee Wednesday, the leader of Minority Opiyo Wandayi said creating the offices will interfere with the functions of Parliament in a way, and hence the need to subject the amendments to a referendum.
It would have to be done in a proper manner, as provided for by the Constitution. I'll invite you at your time when you retreat, Madam Chair and your committee, to look at the provisions of Article 255, 256, and I think 257 of the Constitution.
While Ichung'wah agreeing with the petition, which said the offices could be created through a parliamentary process, Wandayi insisted that the matter must be subjected to a referendum.
With far-reaching ramifications, with far-reaching implications, such as the creation of the offices of Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister and the leader of official opposition, would have to be taken to the people in a referendum.
Okul claims the current system is to blame for the divisive presidential elections that have been witnessed in the country since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Still in politics, earlier on today, a standoff ensued at the National Assembly following Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi insisting that former President Uhuru Kenyatta is the Jubilee Party leader and accusing the Speaker of frustrating the opposition by failing to communicate the decision to kick out Deputy Minority Whip Sabina Chege. While standing on a point of order, Elders Member of Parliament Eden Kainan wondered why Wandayi had referred to retired President Uhuru Kenyatta as the leader of Jubilee, insisting that nominated MP Sabina Chege was the new party leader.
Mr. Speaker, I did write to you on the 6th of April communicating the decision of the minority coalition, the removal of Honorable Sabina Chege as the Deputy Minority Whip. Oh, I hear she's party leader. I don't know about that. I know that the leader of the Jubilee Party, which is a constituent party of Azimio, is none other than His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Mr. Speaker.
Order.
I don't want to be drawn into internal.
What is it? Order, honorable members. The statement by Honorable Wandayi should not excite you unnecessarily. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order for the Honorable Wandayi to mislead this House and Kenyans in general that Uhuru Kenyatta is the leader of Jubilee when we have just made a decision and our party leader is the Honorable Sabina Chege, Mr. Speaker. And Is he in order, Mr. Speaker? Is he in order, Mr. Speaker?
Order.
Yes. Leader.
Order. Order, honorable members, order. Order, honorable members. Order.
Moving on, Kenyans can now access job opportunities in Japan following an agreement between Kenya and Japan. President William Ruto announced Wednesday following bilateral talks with Japan Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. The head of state said that they had agreed to align the curricula to allow Kenyans access skilled and quality jobs. And as Andrin Kilemi now reports, pundits opine that the trade balance is tipped in Japan's favor, with Kenya now expected to identify and penetrate its market.
Kenyans who wish to work in Japan will now have a chance to tap into the Japanese job market following an agreement between President William Ruto and Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. The two heads of state, while addressing a joint media briefing at State House, Nairobi, announced that they had resolved to align their curricula to allow Kenyans access to skilled and quality jobs.
We have also agreed on a number of bilateral issues between Kenya and Japan on the exploitation of the geothermal resources in our country. We've also agreed on a couple of other issues on the development of Dongo Kundu, a special economic zone in Mombasa, to expedite the construction and for Japan to support Japanese investors.
Kenya is one of the leading locations for Japanese businesses to establish presence, and startups are developing enormously, and Japanese startups that resolve social challenges by innovation are also active.
Part of the bilateral talks included bringing aboard Japanese companies to invest in government projects under public-private partnership.
In the past 6 decades, the two countries have successfully collaborated on highly impactful undertakings in many sectors.
And while Kenya is one of the leading hubs of Japanese companies in Africa, pundits opine that the trade balance is tipped in Japan's favor, with Kenya now expected to identify and penetrate a Japanese market.
Our trade minister and other people need to work extra hard to convince the Japanese to drink our coffee. And maybe buy our peril. See, Japan does not have raw materials of its own, but it is so good at exploiting other people's raw materials, turning them around and adding value, such that it becomes an exporter, or sometimes of the things that they borrowed from you. So for Kenya, is maybe to study the Japanese extremely well, to know where the niche is. Because it is not so much the problem with the Japanese, it's the problem with us. We probably have not done our homework well enough to know where to get the market and penetrate it. And if the Japanese refuse to let us in, then we complain, because we have let them in. And every vehicle in Kenya is now is a Toyota or a Datsun. So they're getting free money, out of that.
Kishida's visit comes in the heat of the debate on Kenya's foreign policy, which seems to be shifting from China. The talks between the two heads of state aim to increase trade and economic ties between the two countries, further calling on the urgent need to reinforce peace in the Horn of Africa. Andrin Kilemi, TV47, State House, Nairobi.
Now moving on, the floods that continue to be witnessed in various parts of the nation have affected the livelihoods of many Kenyans. According to data from the Kenya Red Cross, in March this year only, 36,432 people have been affected by floods in the country.
The floods that continue to be witnessed in various parts of the country have left a streak of destruction, leaving many without a source of livelihood, with many more bearing the burden of moving from their homes after their houses were swept away.
We are in troubles.
In fact, we don't know what we can do. Apparently, the place, the whole village is flooded.
With the heavy rains ongoing in various parts of the country, Migori and Busia counties are among the worst hit, with a section of residents marooned by flooding waters after some rivers broke their banks, leaving destruction all over.
Maji imeingia kila sehemu, watu hata hakuna mahali pa kuenda, imebidi tujikinge mahali pa kwa shule, na hii shule hasa iko karibu kufunguliwa. Hata maji imeingia kwa mimea zetu, chakula. Watoto wakapa wanalia njaa. Hata kwenda tu kutafuta chakula pia ni shida.
In Budalangi, the raging waters destroyed dikes constructed a long time ago.
Hakuna pahala ambapo naweza kwenda. Sasa nimekuja hapa kwa shule ya Igigo. Ndio nimekimbilia nika hapa na watoto wangu.
Residents there decried the sad state of affairs, as many families have lost their livestock and food, which has left the residents of these counties grieving and counting their losses.
Maisha ni magumu, watu wako hapa. Ni kama wiki moja, kama watu wameshahama kuja hapa shuleni, lakini hawana chochote.
The residents want both the national and county governments to come to their aid and help them combat the annual floods menace that continues to wreak havoc every rainy season.
Anga ambalo limekaribia tena kubwa sana. Kwanza, vyakula vyote vimezama ndani ya maji ya mafuriko, maji ambayo yametoka milimani baada ya mvua kuu. Na hii ni mwanzo tu wa mvua ndipo imeanza.
Reporting for TV47, Evelyn Musyoka.
Moving on, Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza and Western Regional Commander Mashari Rungu have today in evening flagged off over 800 bags of food to be destroyed in Bamburi Cement in Mombasa. While speaking during the event, Rungu said the decision was reached by the multi-agency committee that was selected to oversee the destruction of the foodstuff, as well as ensure the school is set for reopening this month.
Speaking to the media after flagging off trucks carrying 800 bags of allegedly contaminated foodstuffs at Mukumu Girls, Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza said that the destruction of foodstuffs, as ordered earlier by the Ministry of Education, will bring back confidence to parents and teachers in the school.
The flagging off of almost 800 bags of maize, beans and rice that are supposed to be destroyed as per the condition that we gave, being ensuring safety of our girls. We want to assure the public that the maize and the beans that were contaminated are now going to be destroyed professionally and in compliance with the laid down procedures of destroying the contaminated food.
Baraza, who was accompanied by Western Region Commissioner Irungu Masharia, said that the decision to destroy the 8 million worth foodstuffs was reached by the multi-agency team after Bamburi Cement promised to destroy it free of charge.
We would have done the incineration in Cambridge, Kisumu, but the food items are cumulatively about 73 tons, and the incinerator in Kisumu would do a ton a day. Meaning if we were to destroy all the food items, it would have taken us 73 days. And we found that Bamburi can do it in a day or a maximum of 2 days, which will be cheaper for all of us. Anybody else who is interested in accompanying the food to Mombasa and witnessing the destruction on Friday, they are welcome.
Irungu said that the school has put in place measures in readiness of school reopening from 8th this month, among them overhaul of water system, painting and additional ventilation in the stores, as well as replacing food with part of the 10 million from the ministry, as well as support from the county government.
Kina dhamana ya kitu kama milioni 8, but the government is supporting the school to buy new stocks of food. So chakula kinakuja, the moment stores imetoka, they have already started the procurement. There will be food here before Monday for our children. Kama ile ya kusafisha maji, kuhakikisha maji yako salama, kutoa chakula. Tuko na project zingine ambazo tutafanya, zile tunasema medium term. Kama kwa mfano kutoa hizi asbestos roof. Ilikuwa imepangwa, lakini zile fedha ambazo tuko nazo kwa wakati huu hazitoshi zinunue chakula na zitoa hizo mabati ambazo wasifai.
The process was witnessed by county government, parents and teachers in the school.
We now have a very good source of water. The borehole, which had been sponsored by the Ministry of Education, has already been done. I've just witnessed the purifier being installed.
So we call up